Evening all, thanks all for coming tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about some abduction cases from the South Wales area. Last Thursday I went to see Hilary Porter, a lady from Farnborough, who has a long history of being abducted, and she had missing time and lots of things happening in her house and when she was growing up. Basically she had a lot of happenings when she was from when she was a baby. Like her mother would put her in the garden just to play when she was a toddler, and her mother would, in her own words, her mother would be switched off. No recollection over a period of an hour or two. She'd go in the garden and the little Hilary's disappeared. The garden gates bolted. Later found a quarter of a mile down the road, and this happened a few times. As she grew older, things would happen to her and a friend, a girl called Janet. When they were teenagers, they were seeing craft in the sky, again, possible missing time. But it all came to a head about 1970. There was a major incident happened when she was on the way back from Ireland, and that's what I'm concentrating on tonight with the video that I took, because she is online. She's been interviewed by a few different researchers over the years. She is quite a bit on YouTube about her, with all, if you're interested in the other things happening to her and a friend. She does go into a lot of detail online, which unfortunately we haven't got time for tonight. So I'm going to start the video, and it's about half an hour long. After that, then I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the cases relevant to Hilary. And then we'll have a half an hour break, and then I'll resume then by talking about some cases which Swansea UFO Network have discovered locally, and a couple of us, Steve, have interviewed a couple of people, so I'll be going through those to see what the similarities are between Hilary's case and the other local cases. Okay. Hello, I'm Emlyn Williams, Swansea UFO Network, and I've travelled down from Swansea today all the way to Farnborough to see Hilary Porter, who's had many experiences over the years. But today we'd like to talk to her about her experience in 1970 whilst travelling through South Wales on the way back from a trip to Ireland, and more recently in 2009 in Llanelli.
Hello everybody, I'm Hilary, and I'm going to tell you all about the journey back from Ireland through Wales, 1970, early September. It was in the absolute dead of night. We came off the Fishguard ferry at about 1:15, travelled down to Haverford West, and then we went off east on the little roads, because in that time, those days, there wasn't the M4. We were travelling, I got to about as far as we could remember, to Swansea area, and there's no more recall of the journey home. The next thing we know, it's sunrise and we're outside Cardiff, and we're sitting in a garage forecourt, and there's the sand and everything along the River Severn. I can see Weston-super-Mare. This way I can see the bridge way out in the distance to go back over to England. I can see Somerset Levels that way, and I was very ill, feeling absolutely dreadful. My ex at the time, he was very angry because he'd given me the last few pounds to buy, a meal and everything, because he knew I'd get migraines if I'm not careful, if I don't eat properly. So I had a perfectly good late evening meal and set me up for the night. But no, something had happened. I was really ill, and I knew I'd been abducted somehow, but I didn't know what, how, where, or anything. All I know is I've got to get back to England. So he's, really angry, But then he's looking at the dashboard and he says, he says, that's a bit funny. He says, because we've got more petrol, I thought, in there than one would have thought, he said, because, we've travelled a good few miles. I said, right, well, just get us home, please. So nothing more was said. And then we went over the bridge. We had to pay in stamps to get across the bridge. Then we went to a bank and sorted ourselves out, money-wise, food-wise, everything. Got home. Later that day, I staggered into my bedroom. I needed to sleep desperately because in those days, driving in a little Mini, there's no, banging up and down on all the roads and things, there's no sprung anything in those days. I found, when I was getting undressed, a triangular mark here. Can I see that one? And it was red blood, like sort of suction mark. And I thought, what the heck is that? So I shouted to Robert, come and have a look. And he had a look. And he said, well, it was a bit of a rough journey across. He said, maybe you fell against the bar, or something, when we were getting around. I said, no, I would have remembered that. So I thought, well, that is weird. Anyway, I was so ill, I just had to get to sleep. I slept for a few hours while he prepared food and things like that. It was 7 years later when the flashbacks and everything started to happen. And it came hard on the heels of another abduction at that very time. And for whatever reason, this was given to me, this flashback. The flashback is that, yes, we are at this beach. We are seeing people walking up and down on the sand. It appears to be a Sunday afternoon, round about 3 o'clock, rather than the dead of night. And there's these aliens out on the beach and a craft that's landed. I can't really see the craft in much detail because I wasn't allowed to, I suppose. It's how they work with you and your mind. Anyway, I go across the coastal road where we are, onto the beach, and there was a tall alien, I suppose 6 foot, maybe more, with a green overall on, all in one, with a box strapped to his chest. And there's smaller ones, but I cannot see any of their faces. I've never been able to see their faces. But he does say to me, perhaps it's telepathically, he says, well, that when I move these buttons and things on this box, there's going to be a seismic test done on the beach. The people are going to get very angry, he said, and when they get angry, they're going to run after us, so we have got to run. So I thought, oh, yeah. But he said, it's so good to have you here as part of our team. Would you like to be part of our team? I said, yes, I would. So he said, right. So next thing I know, he's doing these buttons and things, and everything wobbles everywhere. And sure enough, he says, run, the people are after us. Well, there's like Georgian houses all in a, terrace running along, and there's a bit of garden and another bit of garden as we're going up a steep hill, then another row of houses, and he said, go round there, go down here. So we're running down the next road at the top of the hill and run about 7 houses along when there's suddenly a big gap, and in this gap there is a path that goes down in little bits, so far back down to the beach road. And also it's very overgrown with loads of weeds and things. It's never been built on since the war, I would think. Anyway, the voice says, make for one of those cars down there. Well, you know the KA or what they call those little cars? Car, is it? There were two black ones, but they looked like that. That's the closest I can tell you. They were really sort of rounded, like a Volkswagen type thing. But we rushed down, and next thing I know, I'm going into the passenger side of the first car I come to, except I'm not in a car at all. I'm in an oval shaped between 18 20 foot craft, and that is the craft inside. I come to, or whatever it is I'm doing, in the seat here, this seat. They've got very long backs on them, and I noticed that everything in the craft was centrally anchored to the floor. This table was very large. They all kind of looked plasticky, but I couldn't say they were, and I couldn't say they were leather. I'm not really sure what material they were made of. The green, or one of the aliens in yet another green overall, maybe the same one, was standing right next to me, and then you've got another alien, very similar, sitting on a stool, working a console, and I noticed how beautifully fashioned it was with the wall of the craft. So I thought, how beautiful that is, how well made it is. And being an artist and a draftsman, I asked this being, I said, can I go and have a look at the console? Oh yes, he said, that's fine. So I got up and I walked across, and I stood to the one side of this other alien being. I saw the console. The console had like a map on the base, you know, where the table part is. There was made up of sections, squares, and you could see a map in there as well, grid system. And you could also see a light moving extremely fast across this system. It was then that I turned, and I was looking out of the large windows here, big horseshoe shaped front to it, and I saw the other piloting, the chap piloting the craft, again in the green overalls. He had these levers, and he was moving levers back and forth, and also his feet were sort of moving as well. But by God, we weren't half moving. We've gone right across the Severn almost in a matter of moments, and I have no more recall after that as to what happened.
Can I just ask you about, you were travelling back from Ireland.
Yes.
Just before you blacked out or whatever, and found yourself further on in the journey.
Yes.
How far had you gone when that happened?
I'd gone from Swansea area, right outside that area.
So you'd gone past Swansea?
Maybe just about, but not far. We were certainly in the general area, and then the next thing we knew, because Robert said, I think I'll use the coastal roads or something like that to me, and I said, well, yeah, okay, you know, as long as we make our way the right way back.
Yeah.
You know.
And what was it on the motorway?
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
There was no M4 in those days.
Yeah, but Port Albert, there was a bit of a dual carriageway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But there's no recall. Nothing whatsoever. And I say, one doesn't sleep when you've got no suspension or anything in the car.
Yeah, in the Mini. There's not much space in the Mini.
Yeah. So you're awake and everything. But something happened then.
So the next thing you knew, you were in a garage forecourt.
Yes.
Next to a beach.
Yeah, and it's dawn.
Have you any idea where that... At dawn? Yeah.
Well, yes, it's just outside Cardiff.
Just outside
But
Cardiff?
I'm not sure exactly where, because...
you haven't been back to try and retrace your steps?
I'm too frightened to.
Yeah.
with what's happened to me. I really am genuinely too frightened to. I'd like to go.
When you say it was just outside Cardiff, was
was
it sort of the west side of it, or
yes, I think so.
The west side.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Because when I have to come to that, many years later, when I began to understand what was happening to me, and that I was definitely, yes, I always knew I was an abductee, but I needed answers. I needed something. Wales stood out always for me, as others did, of where they've taken me, what's happened to me. So I researched some of your newspapers and things like that, and Margaret Fry kept coming up, and she'd studied this and she'd been there. And
Oh, you contacted Margaret, didn't you?
I did, and she said, and I explained exactly what I was looking out at and where I was, and she said, "Oh my dear," she said, "that's a hot spot." She said there's been many abductions that have taken place in that exact area that you're talking about.
So between Swansea and Cardiff?
Yeah. So I said to her, I do appreciate you being open with me and telling me. I can take it because I just want to know the truth. That's fine, thank you. So with that, and also Tony Dodd, the late police sergeant Tony Dodd, who worked on abduction things, he too verified. I had to go through quite a gruelling lot of tests, if you like, and things, and questioning and all sorts, but I passed every single one, and he said, he says, no doubt about it, you are an abductee. So I said, well, we'll get that under the belt, then I can go on, go forward. So that to me, I was petrified of Wales after that. Naturally, I mean, I loved the scenery and everything about it, but I was too frightened. Then in '09, my friend Janet, who I'd grown up with and everything, was living in Llanelli, and she said, "Oh, come on, Hill, come over and spend some time with us." Well, as a carer as well for many years, going anywhere for any length of time, I was not an option, because Sally, my daughter, was severely autistic. Not Asperger's like you see on the telly, much more than that. It's much more involved. So, but we said we would go to Llanelli. She had a little nice little bungalow, and she had room to put Sally up and room for Ken and I, and she had her sort of put you up in the lounge. So she says, "No excuse, come on, Hill." So, and she said, and she knew, because of all our abductions, her daughter was having abductions for a long time, and she said, "I want you to talk to my daughter, because it's, if you can get through to her, help her in any way." I said, "Of course I will, Jan. Of course I'll help her." And I thought, well, I've got to put myself second in this case, and get some courage and just go. So we all travelled to Wales. There was one little spot where we were coming through a bridge in Cardiff. There was I don't know what made this particular noise. It was only cars, but there was like an acoustic sound, an absolute deafening sound suddenly, and it was something. Sometimes sounds, if you're an abductee, there are certain things sometimes, or maybe it's certain frequencies or something that trigger something off. And my heart pounded.
And that was on the way to Llanelli?
Yeah, just coming through sort of round on the M4 under this bridge, and it was a terrific sound. I was shaking like a leaf, and I thought, oh God, I don't think I'm surely not going to be taken, like right here, driving the car. And all seemed okay. And then I picked up a bit more, and you know, took deep breaths and everything, and I got to Janet's at within 3 hours, just on 3 hours. I rang and I said, we're here, we're at the bus stop, just off the M4, just coming down towards Carnethley. She said, hold on there, Hill, I'll be over to get you. And she did. A few minutes later, she was in the car with her daughter, and we followed them into New Dock Street, and then round into where she lives, you see, which is a new complex. Everything went fine. The only problem was her daughter had a boyfriend who just didn't seem to want to let her speak to me, you know. And that was so sad, because I was there for her for that weekend and trying to overcome an enormous amount I felt inside me to do this. Anyway, we went places, did things, but I just didn't feel quite right. There was something, I felt very down. I felt a strange feeling the whole time I was there. I didn't think I was imagining it. Ken told me I was very restless in the nights, and I was twisting and turning and not at all right. He said you were, something was happening to you, and you're mumbling in your sleep and all sorts. I said, oh right. So we get right through the weekend. On the Sunday, we went over into the Gower.
Can you say the date again? It was August.
It was August 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th.
Right. 2009.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the Sunday, so we took her, she said, come on, go in my little car. So we all got in her car and we went over in the Gower, and we travelled all the way down to Worm's Head and all round. We had a lovely afternoon, except something was preventing me from being... I wanted to be happy and enjoy my friends and everything, but something was wrong and I could not put my finger on it. I just couldn't work out well. But then we went over to a beach on the east side of the Gower, if you like. Beautiful sandy beach. It was lovely, and we spent a couple of hours there, and then we travelled back through, going gradually back towards Swansea and Carnethley.
Can you remember the name of that beach?
Well, only no.
Caswell, Langland.
Something like. I mean, I can see it on the map.
Mm-hmm.
When I look on the map, I have a map here actually. If you really would like me to quote it.
Yeah, might have some significance.
Yeah, well, it might. Yeah, they're just down the side of the chair there.
This chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just...
Can we carry on your story?
No, not there. Down their side. Look down below.
Oh.
Yeah. That's it. So I was checking something out myself. I better take.
While I'm finding it, do you want to carry on with the story?
Yeah. Right. We go to St Arthur's Seat, and Ken jumps out the car.
Oh, Arthur Stone. Yeah.
Stone, yeah. And he's shot down over there and got some lovely pictures of that as well. And we see, it's being an ancient site and everything. Sheep everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And then we got back towards the, the road we needed to take to go back to Carnethley.
So back as the Gower.
Yeah. Yeah, can I have my glasses, please? Thank you. That's it. Yeah, I often look at that. Yeah, I would say it was this one here.
Oxwich.
Yeah. Yeah, we came just across, sort of across here to about there.
Right, yeah, that'll be Oxwich. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very pretty. We then, making our way back, Sunday and Sunday tea time and everything, and she goes to a spiritualist church in the evening, and things, which we went with her, and I won't go into that, I don't think, too much. So anyway, that night we went to bed, and you know, I need to get some good bit of sleep I've got a journey to make the next day. I'm restless again, as I'm told. Next morning, Ken said to me, "Flipping heck, girl, you know, you really were even worse last night," he said. I said, "Oh, right." He wasn't looking at me, and I didn't think anything was wrong particularly at that second in time. I went over to the bathroom, and I was such a shock because my right eye was all swollen. I think it was my right eye. Was it the left eye? All I know is that I couldn't see through the wretched thing very well, and it was all bruised up, and I thought, oh, God, what's happened here? You know, I'm looking at, oh, flipping heck, you know. So I go into the bedroom and I say, "Oi, Ken, turn around, have a look at this." "Oh my God," he said, "what the hell's happened there?" I said, "I don't know." I said, you know, he said, "You've had a hell of a night of it, I'll tell you that." So I said, "Well, I must have been having a fight or something, you know." And I do think I am a little fighter when I'm being taken. I have an incident just recently where I feel I'm fighting against them. And Janet was putting the tea on, a cup of tea, and getting the breakfast ready. And we were going to have lava cake.
Oh, lava bread, yeah.
Lava bread, yeah.
Seaweed.
Yeah. And stuff. So I said to her, "Well, I must try it while I'm here, you know." That's all right. But anyway, "Oh my God," she said, "Ew, what on earth's happened?" I said, "Well, we don't know, Jan." I said, "This is it. This is what's happening, you know, or, you know, got no explanation for it." "Oh, flipping heck, girl, and you got to drive home like that, and you are the driver." I said, "Yeah, I know." So,
I bet you were nervous driving home past Swansea again, were you?
I was. Yes, I was, because I went down, sort of, this road comes up and round and then down under this bridge, and then you're going gradually back out, you know, towards the 7 and the takes you over to, you know, the bridge, the big bridge. Yes, I was.
And you won't go back to Wales?
Pardon?
And you won't go back to Wales?
Well, no, not. I just feel, what the heck else is going to happen to me? You know, there's something, I don't know what I've done. I haven't done anything to my knowledge, and whatever it is, doesn't like me over there, I don't think, for some reason.
So the night when you were staying with Jan, no recollection at all of anything happening apart from the black eye?
No, not really. No, because that night we no, I think it was the second night. We sat in her garden. We did sky watch on the Saturday. Sal was in the back and us lot in the car, and we drove round to a place which was pretty quiet, looking out towards Tenby, is it?
Yeah, Carmarthen Bay.
Yeah, sort of out that way. Because she said sometimes she was very aware about all the sightings that are going on. It's very much like myself. She knows all about the animal mutilations on the Gower and all round, because you know there's wild sheep and there's cattle and there's all kinds of things. You know, I mean, it's rural, isn't it? For God's sake, it's rural and things are happening. So. But that night we didn't really see anything of any significance.
Right.
Yeah, that's far over, isn't it? Yeah, Berryport.
Berryport, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the house right way in the distance. Yeah.
So, looking at the map, going back to 1970, any idea what date that would have been?
Yeah, it's something around about... we were within the first few days of September. We're talking something like perhaps the 9th or something like September.
Right.
We went like when there was the bank holiday coming up, the end of August, sort of around that time.
Yeah. So if you hold the map up, if you could point on that, how far down do you think you would have gone before you had your blackout?
Yeah. Well, we came through. Yeah, we would come through Carmarthen and the castle and down this way, and we would have probably gone using this road. You see, Swansea.
Yeah. Because Cardiff would be that way on the old road before.
Yes, way out there. You see, and we were trying to keep, sort of across. And,
so you went up through the valleys, did you? Or the coast road?
Oh, hang on. No. Yeah, no, we carried on. No, we didn't. We carried on coming down.
Yeah.
Down these roads and.
Because in 1970, the M4 was there then, as far as Port Talbot.
Was it?
Yeah. So.
Well, whatever he did, I don't know quite what happened because there's no recall whatsoever.
And then, if we look at the map for Cardiff, to try and find out where this beach was with a garage next to it.
Oh, I wish I knew. That I wanted to. I mean, I've never had any. What do you call it? Regression.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never had any of that.
Would you have any of that?
For Wales, I think I would.
Yeah.
If I think I'd be able to.
What was the beach like that you can remember?
It was dark sandy.
Dark sand.
Yeah.
Was it a big beach or was it a small beach?
Relatively large. I mean,
built up. It was built up, was it? Because you can remember. You remember these Georgian houses.
Yes, back this way on the road that came down and ran through.
Yeah.
Then you've got housing. I think there might have been a bit of a rise here going down into the sea, a little cliff or something.
Right, so if we hold them, if we have a look at the map of Cardiff, the only place I could think of would be in this area.
Yes, I know, that's
possibly Barry or Penarth. We said it was a sandy beach.
Yes.
So that rules out Penarth, because I know Penarth's got... Was it a pier?
I'm not sure, it could be. But you see, it's very difficult because, what they're doing is playing this back. But I could see the bridges up there way in the distance. I could see Weston-super-Mare, easily.
Yeah.
And I could see the Somerset levels, even up to about this area.
Right, so
well.
we're looking at the Barry area then,
I think we are, yeah.
Maybe around Sully, around that area. Was the road quite close to the beach?
But yes, it was right next to it.
Right next to it?
Yeah.
Right, so I'll have to have a look at that.
Oh, if you could tell me, I'd be so pleased.
Maybe
because
look at Google Maps, maybe.
Yeah,
Google Street View.
I've tried to Google the place.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm not sure.
Just thinking back in 1970, where there was a garage.
Yes.
It was early in the morning, was it, when you found yourself there?
Early dawn.
So nobody else about?
No, it was just coming up. The sun was, in the east, just rising.
And you just continued your journey then back to... No. That was just so you can get the lips synced, because it's a separate microphone. Anyway, she was a lovely lady to talk to. She made me lunch as well. And a partner, Ken. Many years ago, they started a group called Beams, British Earth Aerial Mysteries Society. And she runs a help group for abductees and contactees. And a very knowledgeable lady on the subject. Bit of a background again to her. She told me a few stories, and again you can see them online as well. One incident that happened to her was she had a missing pregnancy. It's quite a common occurrence actually with abductees, that they report being impregnated and then the fetus taken away for interbreeding, breeding a hybrid race is one suggestion why they're doing it. She went. It is online. You can look at. She went to the hospital and she had some hassle with the nurses and the doctors. They wouldn't tell her what was going on basically. And then in 2003, she had something wrong with the telephone, and she telephoned BT to get it sorted out, and within minutes, a young man arrived. She was outside the front garden, and he was walking across the road, and he said, "Hello, I'm your new BT man." And she thought, "Oh, that's strange, because I've only just phoned up." And he came into the sitting room, and he came into the living room door, through the living room door, and he did a 180 degree turn, looked at the wall, where she had a picture of a flying saucer with a beam of light coming out from it, a painting, you know. And he said, "Oh, that's a really nice picture." And she said, "Oh, are you interested in UFOs?" And he said, "Yeah, I am, yeah, very much so, you know." Anyway, he fixed the phone, and then rather than going, he started showing her his family pictures, him and his partner or wife, and a small child. It's strange for a BT engineer to do that, and not only that, but they asked him if he wanted to stay for some food, because it was lunchtime. He said, yeah, fine. And he sat on the wicker chair in the living room. He didn't have any food. He didn't want to have any food. He said, "No, it's okay." He didn't drink. And he was just talking to them. And it was at that moment she thought, "There's something not quite strange here." And I said, "I think you know where you're going there." He was her son, a hybrid son. He said where he was living with his family. They checked it out later on, but the people hadn't heard of him. So that was an amazing story. I asked her, have you told anybody else that? Is it on, you know, has it been documented? She said, "No, you're the first person I told." Unfortunately, I didn't have that on camera because it was a bit late setting the camera up because she made me food and we were talking.
How old is she?
Sorry?
How old is she?
I don't know, she's born in the 40s, so
40s.
60, 70, 70s.
How did she say? Is she completely lucid when you're talking to her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about her husband?
Oh, he's a fascinating guy. We were talking for about half an hour or 45 minutes, I think, chatting.
But, I mean, when she was talking on the phone, and the guy came, is it saying how restless and stuff she was? Well, did he wake up? Was she in the bed? You know, was she there? Was she not there?
She didn't seem to provide any evidence of what she's talking
No, but again,
other than I've woken up with black eyes. He probably punched her when she was sleeping.
No, I can't see that. But unfortunately, a lot of stories they can't provide evidence. You just have to take their word for it, basically.
Yeah, but did you speak to the husband when you were there?
Yeah, I spoke to him. Yeah, he couldn't give any more than what she gave in the interview.
Did she actually, apart from the first time the first story, did she recall speaking to anyone or communicating to any beings?
Yeah, in the 1970.
She mentioned that one, but I mean the Cleckley incident.
No, I asked her that. She can't, you know. But she had a feeling all day that something wasn't right. And initially, when I asked if she'd come to our meeting to give us a talk, you know, we'd put it up or whatever, she said, "No, I can't go to Wales again." She has got a genuine fear of coming to Wales.
So it's only ever happened to her in Wales?
No, it's happened in England as well. But I think the experience that happened in 1970, it hadn't settled us so much. You know, I think if this happens at home, it's bad enough. But if you're away from home, you're away from your secure zone, it's even worse, I think.
It's smaller than you then, isn't it?
Yeah, she's a definite believer that the abduction phenomenon does follow bloodlines. It's happened in her family. It's happened with her and her friend as well. So she said on the video that it's happening to her friend's daughter. I am trying to get in touch with a friend. She only lives in Llanelli, so she's local. So it'd be nice if we could get her side of the story, you know.
Have you done any research on if there's anything seen around those times that she was there?
I've had a look. September 1970, I haven't found anything yet.
70 or in August?
August, September, I think she said, 1970.
There's anything seen,
But it's very interesting. If you go, there are a few other interviews online if you want to have a look. Richard D. Hall did an interview with her in 2009. There's a couple of others as well.
Has she got children?
Yeah, she's got a daughter.
She's got a daughter.
Yeah, who's in her 40s now, I believe.